and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Today, I have a great interview coming up in a little bit. You will not believe this man's story about his ex-wife and everything that she did to him. It's unbelievable. It's a hit book. He's become quite a sensation on TikTok, sharing these incredible, horrible details of his marriage. You'll just find fascinating. So that's coming up in a little bit. First, let me talk about what is going on with Chrishell Stause, star of Selling Sunset. Well, the news hit this week that she is, in fact, if you know the show Selling Sunset, this was the beautiful girl who was married to the star of This Is Us. We saw on the show that he abruptly filed for divorce from her. He has since gotten married to a woman he was working with at one point, so they may have fallen in love. Anyway, then she was on Dancing with the Stars and fell in love with her partner there. And now she is in Capri, Italy with a couple other people, I think Mary from the show and some other people, on yachts. It feels like everybody I follow is in Italy. Everybody's is in Italy or Greece, in Mykonos. And that's why I'm wearing this white dress with this blue necklace, because I feel like I'm just going to pretend that I'm in Greece with like everybody else on earth. Anyway, she is now in love and dating Jason, one of the two identical tiny twins, the Oppenheimer guys. They are a couple. It is for real. And she even joked, like, move over J-Lo and Ben. So we'll see. They seem to be having a lot of fun on their social media, and it feels like it's a publicity stunt, but then it's mostly because everybody is also picking it up and are kind of obsessed with it. But I do think she was an aspiring actress who then became a realtor, or I don't know what happened, the chicken or the egg, meaning did the reality show come first and then she studied and took her test? I think that might have been the case, though I'm not sure. But now she is really famous. She's got, and maybe that was a situation with her husband where, you know, he was the star and she was starting to get in her own. So I think this is a great match. It's the best of both worlds. And she gets to be on TV and sell a house. So there you go. Okay, Ben Affleck, speaking of J-Lo and Ben, I had mentioned who is picking up the yacht for J-Lo's birthday. Is it she, or is he just picking up the plane tickets? How does this work? Well, someone said, don't worry, Heather, because Cosmo magazine said Ben Affleck's net worth is massive. So he can also afford this $65 million house they supposedly were looking at to purchase together. Again, I don't know why they'd purchase a house together, but I guess there was some reports that they were looking at houses. A lot of the photos of their trip on the yachts that, you know, they took some photos with some people that got out that was not retouched and curated by J-Lo or her team or whatever. And it was a little shocking. Some of the photos were not as cute as I thought of Ben Affleck. And the glasses were like, it looked like he borrowed her glasses. It was just a little scary. But anyway, don't worry. He's worth over $400 million. Also, this was amazing. Talk of Shame, one of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow, posted a tweet from Jose Canseco. I still don't know why Jose Canseco and A-Rod hate each other, but they do. And it's Never Forget, and it's his tweet from January 12th, 21, just this past January. He wrote, Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez will go their separate ways this year, and Alex Rodriguez will hook up with a fitness model. Oh my God. So he is on some boat with a fitness model and then like this other couple. It's just very bizarre. Anyway, Jose obviously has celebrity predictions down, maybe as good as I have, or it might only be reserved for A-Rod, which he's like weirdly obsessed with. Okay. This was a crazy article that came out on the Daily Mail. As you know, Governor Cuomo it came out a couple months ago that he was, that there were reports that he was created a toxic environment and there might have been some sexual harassment. Well, the final report is now done. and Democrats are asking for him to, in fact, step down from being governor of New York. He hasn't yet done that as of today. But one of the stories that was interesting is that this girl who worked for him was told by him, find me a girlfriend. Sandra Lee is no longer calling me back. She broke up with me. I need a girlfriend. And this young girl suggested Chelsea Handler. And he said, I wouldn't date, according to her, I wouldn't date Chelsea Handler because she's nuts. And like, just hilarious. And anyway, they never got together. She also suggested Jada Pinkett Smith, which I thought, I'm sorry, girl, maybe you weren't that great at your job, because why would you date Jada? She's been with Will Smith forever. And whether they have an open relationship or not, which was never really out until a couple of years ago with that crazy story. And then she had to sit at the red table and tell her story. Anyway, so I don't really think it was a serious thing, but there are notes about this, that this girl, in fact, then turned over for the investigation. Okay, this was some juice that just came out. It's all over the Instagram Bravo accounts. It's a spoiler alert for this season. Take it if what you will. However, I've done some investigative work, and there will be a scene in which apparently Margaret, who's always had an issue with Jennifer has been very hard on Margaret, saying, not being at all sympathetic to Margaret's story in her book about being sexually harassed by her boss and having a relationship with her boss, sexual relationship with her boss. She did not understand that at all and was pretty harsh about it. Also really harsh to Margaret about the fact that Margaret, while she was married, fell in love with her contractor, who is her now current husband, Joe. Well, what I heard is, do you remember in Real Housewives of New Jersey when, I think they're in Cabo at LeBlanc, by the way, is where they filmed this, which is my favorite place in Cabo, all inclusive, 21 and over or 18 and over. It's fabulous. Anyway, where Margaret says something like, yeah, your husband, sleeps in the pool house for a reason, or she hints at something. She later on says, I was just trying to get a rise out of you. Well, according to this, while they're filming, it comes out that apparently Margaret confronts Jennifer that her husband has had an affair, and it is knowledge and it's out there, and Jennifer confirms it. And it happened before the show began, before she was on the show. So, somehow it happened. They got through it. But it's just very interesting if this is true. What I loved about Margaret is when she got on the show, she immediately was like, here's the thing. You know what? Here's the thing. I was in a marriage. It wasn't great. We didn't really get along. I thought about leaving. Met Joe, my Joe. He was my contractor. We fell in love. What? Am I proud of it? No. Are we all good friends today? Yes. And she just was so honest about her whole thing. She built this business. She had lawsuits. She explained what the lawsuits were. And she just put it out there. I mean, I just can't believe people, why throw stones when you live in a glass house? Like, are you kidding me? I understand you think you're going to go on this show and no one's ever going to find out. Maybe they discussed it. Maybe he didn't want her to go on. And she's like, because you betrayed me those years ago, you're going to let me do whatever the hell I want. Maybe he was like, no one's ever going to find out. I run a good business and my business will be featured. I don't know what kind of conversations couples have when they decide to go on these shows. But I mean, then when you guys talk about the shows suck, we need an all new cast. Good luck finding people that you are going to bitch about, that are rich enough, pretty enough, interesting enough, that don't have some skeletons in their closet. Because now we know any skeleton will be found. I mean, I think they found a traffic ticket or something that happened with Crystal from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills when she was in Arizona once. I mean, it's ridiculous what everybody can find. So it's you really cannot have anything. And if you did have a marital problem that involved another person, just know it's going to get out there. So I feel kind of badly for her. I do feel badly for Jennifer if this is the case. I just think it's interesting that that was just such her MO during these last few years to really go after her castmates and present it like I have such a perfect marriage. And then this comes out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope they are past it. I hope that they, it doesn't affect their home life that much. But this is what happens when you go on these shows. So that is supposedly the rumor there. Now, Britney Spears, you guys. I know you're like, Heather, I'm just over it. I know. But I find this to be super interesting. And we all are wondering what is going on with her Instagram. Is she posting this? Is CrowdSurf, this social media team, well, they are still employed. So they are, in fact, doing stuff with her Instagram. But what does she post? What doesn't she post? What's old? What's new? What is she writing? This is what I think from my sources. That yes, some of the stuff is hers, but she cannot post like that. It has to go through them. And then they also post stuff. Sometimes it's old content that she sent, old videos that she sent. But what I'm wondering is these really long written things. And these things I don't believe are her. And I think this is the most deliberate setup to make people believe that she is not okay to live on her own. And this was the post. It's a photo of a beautiful mahogany door, slightly cracked open. Okay. And this is what is written. Britney Spears. At 2 a.m., I decided to take a bath, with a bath emoji. I got a new scented lotion from Victoria's Secret, and I wanted to wear it because it helps me sleep better. Okay. Already weird. Not a bubble bath from Victoria's Secret. No, I want to take a bath so then after the bath I could put on the lotion. Why wouldn't you just put on the lotion? I went to the bathroom and looked at my leftover coffee from earlier in the morning and said gross, but didn't throw it away. And then I looked for my face wash but couldn't find it anywhere. All these exclamation marks. I was caught up in my head looking for it for about 15 minutes and then realized it's probably in the other room. Then I went to leave the door and it was locked. Okay. By the way, what I realized is this supposed Instagram post that she supposedly wrote based on something that actually happened to her, all of which I don't believe. That door is the door from the resort that she's staying at in Hawaii. So this is supposed to be taking place while she's in Hawaii. She supposedly this happened at her hotel room. Then I went to leave and the door was locked. Locked emoji. I thought, okay, well, it's a bathroom. I can open the damn door. No, the lock was stuck. I got locked in the fucking bathroom and my boyfriend was sleeping. Even if there was earthquakes, he doesn't wake up. I screamed, hey, come open this stupid door. Silence. The fourth time he gets up and says, what's wrong? I said, I'm in here and I can't get out. He tried to do his thing to open the door with a pen. Now, how does a pen open the door? Not a pin. And also, now I'm not sure, I can't confirm this, but in most nice hotels, they actually have a bathroom. Not every single one, but in the bathroom, they have a phone to call, which you'd be able to get downstairs. You wouldn't need, that's coming up in a minute in this. But anyway, I think they're setting the tone that she cannot live by herself. And if Sam wasn't there, she would be locked in the bathroom forever. Okay. So it keeps going on. I said, okay, so he tries to get the pen. So I got my phone and I called security to tell them to open the door. 15 minutes went by. Now, why wouldn't he pick up the phone if there isn't one in the bathroom and call security? Why is she on her phone? So they're saying she has her phone and she called security. Wouldn't he just pick up the phone next to the bed and call security? No, she calls security and tell them to open the door. 15 minutes went by and they finally said they'd send someone to open the door. 10 minutes later, hello, is anybody there? Then they told me 10 more minutes. I cleaned the bathroom. why are you cleaning the bathroom? Okay, you're in a hotel. And thought about taking a shower or something. Well, do you want to just take your bath? Yeah, that's what you got in there for. I saw the door. It just and I just looked at it for the first time with a yearning of just wanting it to open. Would my eyes trick me and make it open faster? Okay, so now she's having delusions. My eyes widened and the door was more clear, more vast. Well, vast isn't clear. And I could see it with clarity and brightness. Please open the door. We're here, they said. I asked how long it would take to open, and they said, oh, maybe 10 minutes. The old coffee I had left from this morning was there. I started feeling foggy. Again, this started at 2 a.m. Now, if all this time is right, it's 3 a.m. Now she's drinking her old cold coffee that's moldy. So I drank it. I was re-energized and started speaking again. Are you guys there? Yes, we are, they said. Stand back. We're going to open the door. It opened. It finally opened. I mean, I don't know why, if she is in fact not doing this, which I don't think she is, this needs to be the next thing that she and her attorney addresses. That, she can have hire someone to help manage this. But, she doesn't like comments. She doesn't write back people. So I just really don't think she has control over this. And I think this one was the most deliberate to get us to believe that if we do in fact get what we want and Britney is free, that she could be locked in a bathroom for the rest of her life. Okay, Real Housewives of New York. It was pretty dull. But this I just thought was hilarious. It's Leah and her sister. Oh, God, stop trying to make this sister happen, people. I'm just not into her. Then they brought her brother over that's 9 years younger. People thought he was hot. I just thought. Anyway, I was seeing these comments posted of this on the in my group, Juicy Scoop Obsessed, and people this is not Real Housewives of New York. This looks like a Russian spy movie, or these look like elder millennials working at a hip bar somewhere. It's just not working. I don't even know what to tell you. It was just super boring last night. It took me a long time to get through it. But a good part was Ramona was on Real Housewives. I mean, she was on Watch What Happens Live. And Andy was asking her all these things. Does she regret anything? Most of it she didn't. And he said, do you regret earlier asking me if you could get out of today's appearance because someone offered you Lady Gaga tickets? And I was like, this is just so Ramona. Because she's done the show so many times. She doesn't really care, I guess. And she's just like, you know what? I'm really upset right now because I'm supposed to do Watch What Happens Live, okay, with Rashawn. And I want to be there because she's a new cast member. And it's hasn't been real easy for her. And I know it's not a great season. But you know what? It's there's so many people in New York right now. I bet he could just maybe replace me. And then my girlfriend, one of my really great girlfriends, she's really sweet. She's front row tickets to see Lady Gaga. And I know Lady Gaga's a huge Real Housewives of New York fan. And she's probably going to meet me after. And I just thought, that'd be great. And who knows? You know what? I have my real estate license now. I don't know if Lady Gaga wants to buy a house in New York or what. But it's you know what? I got to think of something else. A lot of people are saying that the show's not coming back or I'm not coming back. So it's you know what? Ramona has to make her own money, okay? I'm a businesswoman first. So I'm just going to call Andy. I'm just going to text him. I'm just real sweet. Just ask him hey, just wondering. I got tickets to see Lady Gaga. Any chance you have somebody else lined up that could take the spot? Maybe I could do it tomorrow night or something. So absolutely amazing. And of course she was there. All right. You guys, The Bachelorette had the juiciest moment. I know everyone always says the most shocking, the most in Bachelor history. To me, I thought this was really interesting. So the Bachelorette, Katie, is there. The whole thing, of course, because of COVID, they have not been able to leave this New Mexico resort, which is where I stayed for the 6 days that I worked on the show. 5 quarantine, 1 doing the show. And so now it's quote unquote hometowns. So they basically just set up some stuff from the guy's hometown. And he sees her out of his balcony. I mean, obviously this was set up for him to see it because they had the cameras ready to go. and he sees her playing hockey with Blake, this other guy that she's into. But this guy, Greg, and she have had chemistry from day one. And to me, I think he's super hot. He's got floppy hair. He's tall, and she really likes that he's tall. She did a toddler jump on all the guys, Blake, Justin, and him. There's only 3 guys left because Michael left. Yeah, I think there's only 3 guys left. So she only did 3 hometowns, I think. Michael was the not stay-at-home dad, sorry. He was the widowed dad, and he left because he didn't want to spend any more time away from his child. So she has a great time with Blake, who's the Canadian. And Blake is, to me, I don't think a great choice. He was on Claire's season, and he was super into Claire. Then, remember, she left, and Tayshia took over. Then he got into Tayshia. They dated. He was like a front runner. And then he started talking to Katie, and they brought him mid-season. And they do have good chemistry. They do like to make out. Anyway, she's with this guy, Greg, and he has her meet the family, and he's very emotional because his dad died, and he's so happy, and his family and the mom is there, and he's into her, and the mom's like, so I'm just really afraid my son's going to be hurt. And Katie's like, here's the thing. I don't even care anymore. Your son's going to get a rose. He's going to get a rose. He's going to be here next week. So she basically tells the mom he is one of 2 men or 3 fantasy suites. I don't even know where we are, but she's like, next week we do fantasy suites, and I will be alone with him. And, she's pretty much saying he's the one to the mom. But I think she's such a good bachelorette that she has followed the rules of this show, which is like, you're not going to cut it early like Claire. You're not going to say I love you till the end. You're not going to bone someone before like Caitlyn did. You're going to stick to the rules, and it's all going to work out for you. And so this is what was so juicy. So he tells her he loves her, and she's like, thank you. I feel really special. And he just turns, and it gets really weird between the 2 of them. And the next day he wakes up, and he's just like, I can't take it. I can't. I just feel. And he goes to visit her, and he's basically saying to her, I don't feel like I know you anymore. I feel like I'm talking to Katie, the reality star, and not Katie, the woman who I thought I was going to marry. You're my girl, and your reaction to when I told you that I loved you was dismissive. And she's like crying, and she's like, I don't know what you want me to say. I'm sorry I reacted differently. Like, this is weird. We're on a show. I have other guys here. I have to like follow the rules. I wasn't going to tell anybody that until like the end out of respect to these other people. And he just was like, I get how the show works, but I can't do it anymore. He leaves. She goes running after him. He cries again. She's crying, and he leaves. So the response on Twitter was like, oh my God, this could be a documentary on gaslighting. They thought he was gaslighting her. They thought he was talking in circles. She's crying. Caitlyn's knocking on the door, which then people are like, oh my God, Chris Harrison could never. This is why this is so great that we actually have, female hosts that have formerly been on the show. She's like, I want to go home. I just want to go home. This is who I wanted. This is why I want to go home. I don't know. My heart was like torn. I was like extremely invested in this episode. I could not believe it. And what I think is this guy is not ready to be engaged at all. He has not done the emotional work he needs to do to get over the loss of his father. And he could fall this hard for another girl that he meets at a bar next week. 100%. It's like this weird way that they fall in love with like all these weeks of just being in this hotel room. You're only living to see this person. It's prison-like. And you fall so intensely in love that you can't see. And then that's why it sometimes works out, but rarely it does. Because then you get out into the real world and people are walking up to you at bars and they're hitting on you and they're like, you're my favorite one. And it's just so fun. And you don't really have a job. So you're either like just doing social influencer stuff or you're on Dancing with the Stars. And it's just not a normal life after this is over. But I'm telling you, this season, this was really unique and juicy. And we'll see what happens. Oh, this was crazy. So my son is going off to ASU, as you know. I love this Instagram account, Grown and Flown. And there's this photo of what boys bring to the dorms and what girls bring to the dorms. And it's like 10 times the amount of stuff. But we were going to ASU, and this really weird, tragic thing happened today. This is a juicy crime. This Phoenix cop took an online date. She's 31 for a hike in Arizona. She's gorgeous. And she was found dead. Here's the thing. So basically what happened, this beautiful girl lived in Massachusetts. She was talking to this very attractive cop from Phoenix. Online, they finally make a plan to meet. She comes from Massachusetts and goes to Phoenix. They go on a hike in 104-degree weather near Camelback Mountain, which I've been. It's very pretty, but I can't imagine going on a hike in the middle of, at the end of July in 104 degrees at like 4 in the afternoon. They start going up the mountain, according to this guy. She is like, it's too hot. I can't do it. I will meet you down at the parking lot, but get to the top so you can take some photos for me. That's what he says. Neither of them have water. He comes down to the parking lot. She's nowhere to be found. Then he calls the authorities, and then they found her. That's all we know. I don't know if they just found her and she just passed out under, a rock. I don't know. So far they say no foul play. If anything, this guy's the worst date ever. Are you kidding me? This girl's not from Phoenix. You don't bring water, and then you don't insist that you stay with her in this incredible weather. It's very, very suspicious. And the Daily Mail just said that this same cop actually was disciplined for lying to police in 2009. So her friends are really questioning why he would abandon her halfway. And obviously this was like a first date or a new relationship. This was the first time they'd met in person. So crazy crime there. Oh, The Weeknd, he says he's no longer into doing hard drugs or alcohol, but he does drink wine sometimes and smokes a little pot. So he calls himself Sober Light. So Demi Lovato is California sober. He's Sober Light. And I kind of think he probably listens to Juicy Scoop, and he got Sober Light from Hooker Light. Hilaria Baldwin is just as annoying as ever. She's just moved on with her life. Everyone's still following her on Instagram and apparently liking her post because she did some thing with Pop Chips. I don't know if they were a sponsor. And then she's got the pumps on her boobs and she's doing highlights in her hair. And she's like multitasking, and then 22,000 people liked it. Who are these 22,000 people that are not completely annoyed by her phoniness? And she calls her kids little Balduinos, and everyone's just going on. She was on Alex Baldwin's game show recently. So when people talk about, oh, it's so sad, nobody is ever canceled forever. They just aren't, including her. I came across this on Twitter. You may have heard of Abby and Brittany Hensel before, either on Oprah, Time Magazine, or their TLC show. These were the girls that were conjoined twins. And it was two heads on one body. They had one leg on each side and, two arms and two legs. And I feel like they did a lot. Anyway, it says, conjoined twins share ghastly news after 28 years. Well, this was from Maternity News, and I started this was the worst clickbait I'd ever seen. So then I went to Twitter just to see what the comments were, and all the comments were like, this is the most annoying clickbait I've ever seen. Like, what the hell? What is it? Are they pregnant? Is there one guy? Is it a three? I don't even know, because I couldn't even get through it. I couldn't even find, nobody went through all the clicks. Anyway, I think I know what the news is. I think that Abby and Brittany, the conjoined twins, are starting a podcast. Because could you think of a better job for them, honestly? I mean, and add a YouTube component. The mics are right there. They you never have to worry about your co-host flaking or not showing up. You always have someone to talk to. Anyway. All right, you guys. Make sure you go to heathermcdonald.net. I've added some shows. I'm excited to see you. I'm going up to San Francisco this weekend, going to all city wineries. And next is Seattle Triple Door with Justin Martindale. But we've added shows. Once those shows have been added, that's it, you guys. Once it's sold out, I don't know the next time I'll be in your city. So please go to heathermcdonald.net. Get your tickets, plan your weekend with your husband or your girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. It's always a good time. And now for a very juicy interview with J.D. McCabe, author of The Third Gift. It's the craziest marriage divorce story you've ever heard. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I am talking to a very juicy author, juicy book from the author. J.D. McCabe wrote a book, The Third Gift. I discovered you. A few Juicy Scoopers sent me some of your TikToks and I watched them and I was like, this is a story that I know our listeners will be into. And it's unfortunately your true life story. So
Correct,
welcome to the show, JD. And you're in South Carolina?
I'm in South Carolina. Yeah, originally from the North Carolina, but moved down to South Carolina a little over a year ago. So I absolutely appreciate this opportunity. And I want to thank you, not only you, but also your TikTok audience. So it's not lost on me. So thank you.
So we talked a little bit about this story, which is about your ex-wife and divorce and what you went through. So let me just kind of ask some questions so how did you meet her? Like, were there any red flags? How did you meet her? What was the beginning of your life like together?
That is a great question. I met her playing in a slow pitch softball league. It was nothing competitive. And I was introduced to her. I was playing shortstop. I was introduced to her by the third baseman's wife at the time. And when I first met her, we hung out a little bit after the game. We got to talking and I found out she had been married before. We didn't get into too much detail and I had no contact with her for 3 months. But I ran into her in a watering hole 3 months later in a bar in Pittsburgh, and as luck would have it, I told her, "Hey, look, I wasn't, I've been meaning to reach out to you, wanted to connect with you," and she's like, well, I haven't been sitting by the phone." So the kind of the fieriness in her was kind of what attracted me to her, and then we started dating from there, and would later explore a little bit about the first husband. But that was a major red flag that I missed early on, not investigating that a lot further.
And so how old were you guys then when you became serious and got married?
I was 28 when I got married. Of all days, we got married on September 11th, but 1993. And so I was 28, she was 25. So we had dated for about a year and a half prior to getting engaged and getting married. Yeah.
Okay. So did your family like her?
They did. They did like her. And we had a reasonably happy, I would consider, a relatively stable marriage for the first 17 years. And then all hell broke loose after that.
And before we jump to the 17 years, because you said it was a pretty great marriage and you had a couple kids, you have 2 kids?
2 kids, correct. Yeah.
What did she tell you about the ex-husband?
What she told me about the ex-husband was a story that she would later try to portray me as. So she told me, he was 10 years her senior. He had an 11-year-old daughter. So she got married at 22 and was allegedly, and I will say allegedly about a lot of things she told me, but allegedly told me that they had been married for, less than 8 weeks. She never even really moved in with him. And that she was looking for a father figure, but he was controlling, he was abusive. She couldn't go anywhere without him questioning her every move. And her mother and her grandmother, validated and supported that story, that she made a mistake and, she's learned from it and she's moved on. So I accepted it.
So jump to 17 years into the marriage. What is your situation like? Do you both have careers, or are you just the one bringing in the money? What's your home life situation and socioeconomic situation?
Yeah, she was a stay-at-home mom. So when we first got married, she worked, and she only worked part-time, which I supported, whatever she wanted to do. But I worked full-time, and I was the primary breadwinner for the household. Yeah.
And so then year 17 rolls around. What's the first start of issues that you guys start having?
First, it began subtly, Heather, with accusations of infidelity. So she started to see a therapist after her father passed away, and I think that was we can talk more about it, but I think that was a huge triggering point for her when she had to make the unfortunate decision to turn her father's life support off. And then his life partner, because as it turns out, her father came out of the closet when she was 2, and
Oh, really?
recognized his homosexuality. And so now I have some enlightenment as to perhaps that was the genesis for her abandonment issues. But she had always had a good relationship with her father up until we started dating. And when we started dating, she portrayed the picture that he was an SOB and he was a deadbeat dad. And I would later learn that her relationship was actually pretty good. So I think her relationship with her father fell apart after her first marriage. Because here's another crazy twist to it. He took in her now ex-husband. Her ex-husband ended up moving in with her father.
Did they become romantic?
No, because he had a life partner with him at the time. But that was what my now ex-wife said was, yeah, he took because I could never understand it. I'm like, why would your father do that to you? Why would your father take in your ex-husband? And her answer back to me.
And the little girl too? And the
No,
stepdaughter?
no, I don't know what happened to her. Yeah, I don't. That's a great point. I don't know what happened to her. She was 11 at the time. I don't know. But I did validate, as I investigated all this later on, I did validate by looking at county records that this gentleman was on the deed to the house and actually lived there for a year. But her story to me was that he took in her ex-husband because he was attracted to him. And of
Oh.
course, yeah. So at least that's the story she spun.
And how did her mother feel about the fact that she married this man, had a child with him, and then found out he was in fact gay, and he went and lived his truth? Did the mom and he have a decent relationship as far as like child custody and stuff?
Well, according to her and according to my now ex-wife, no. So he had moved away to Chicago and then ultimately settled in Florida. But according to them, paid no child support. Lived his life and was kind of a deadbeat father and didn't live up to his financial obligations. And there was some talk about going after him for child support and so forth, so on. But he pleaded with my now ex-wife that please don't do that. Don't allow your mother to drag me into that. Do you know what they do to a gay man in prison? So yeah. So it was kind of convoluted. So she reconnected with her father after being estranged from him for 10 years, the innocence of our son when he was 5 or 6. They knew about grandpa, but they knew mom had not talked to grandpa. My son simply said, why don't you call your father? And she did. And we came home from the pool one sunny afternoon when we lived in North Carolina, and there was a message on the answering machine from her father, and they reconnected, and I supported it. And they reconnected for 5 years. And then in 2007, he had a massive heart attack. And at the time, Florida didn't recognize, gay partners or gay marriage. And so she was the one that had to make the decision to take him off of life support. Well, 2 years later, his life partner suddenly died. And so she lost 2 people that had been very important in her early life. And Heather, I swear to God, it was the guilt from because I believe that she cheated on her first husband as well. I'm certain of it.
Okay, so when both of her dad and the partner die, is there any inheritance or anything that she gets from that, being his only child?
No, there was no inheritance, and that was one of the things that actually made her quite livid. Was that his life partner's family kind of shunned her. And supposedly there was some land that she was in the will for, but she never received anything. And sadly, when her father passed away, he was not financially well off at all.
Okay, so she starts seeing a therapist, and during these therapy sessions, she starts to come home to you and start to say that you're acting suspiciously, or what? How does it
Yeah,
how does
yeah.
this begin, where someone starts to all of a sudden after 17 years be like, wow, you were at Target for a really long time? Like, what is that? How does that
I,
start?
I loved your stand-up about Target, by the way,
Oh,
and the Facebook stuff. So I did watch Juicy Scoop. It was excellent.
thank you.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I supported her going to therapy because I knew that she was struggling with the loss of her father and the loss of her father's life partner. But yes, absolutely, out of the blue, if I wasn't traveling, I worked from home, so I'm in my office, and she would come in and demand to see it was out of the blue. I need to see your emails, and I need to see your phone. And my therapist says that I should have access to all of that information. And I said, for what reason? She says, well, she thinks you're cheating on me. And I said, based on what? And then she would let that go for several months. And she would kind of do it on a quarterly basis, just throw a jab that, I've got an emotional connection to a woman at work, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. And I'm like, this is baseless. I never
Yeah.
had my phone protected. She always knew what my password was for my personal email. And so she had full access to whatever she wanted. I had nothing to hide. And I swept that. That should have been another giant red flag for me, right? The guilty are usually the accusers. And I should have jumped all over that. And I should have said, give me your phone. Let me see your phone.
But you never
Which
did.
would be, no, I never did. I
And
never
what
did. I
and
couldn't.
and what was your romance and sex life throughout the 17 years of marriage up until this point?
Yeah, I'd have, I would, what's the best way to describe it? I would,
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
how to,
It's your sex life. Tell me. I mean,
it,
was it
it
regular?
wasn't,
Did you go through lulls? Did you only do it on vacation? Did you do it every Saturday
yeah,
night? Did
no,
you, try different things? Did you go through different stages of like exciting stuff, or what?
and I could talk about the exciting stuff. The exciting stuff when it became exciting, it was because she had an alternative motive. She had an ulterior motive when it became really exciting. But I would say it was vanilla. Is vanilla a proper word for it to describe it? I mean,
Okay.
it was maybe every couple of weeks. We weren't,
Yeah.
hypersexual. And of course, early in the marriage, you get two young kids, and I was
Yeah.
traveling a lot for work. So I would say I don't want to say it is normal because it was the only marriage I had. So I don't know what sex in a normal marriage is, but I would say I would describe it as vanilla. It wasn't all that often.
Okay. And so when you just said when it got exciting, let's talk about that. What was that? What are you getting at there?
Yeah. So later, as the wheels started coming off the marriage, then there would be the introduction of, we try to spice it up a little bit. Introduction of toys, introduction of, this was, as we were going through some difficulties. And then she would later spin that against me, that those were my ideas and I'm hypersexual. And she would go to her therapist and tell her that. She would go to her attorney when we got to the attorney stage and tell him that I just wanted sex all the time. And I was doing things in the bedroom that I had never done before, which was not true. It wasn't crazy off the hook type, S&M swings or anything like that. But it was, well, yeah, we introduced some new things into the marriage, and I thought, okay, maybe this is normal to kind of rekindle the
Yeah.
rock, remove some of the rocks and rekindle the love. But again, I know that she had some ulterior motives. So she, especially in like a month before, and this is all in the book. So I call it slip and slide night. So I don't mind telling you about it because it's
Yeah.
in the book. But about 2 or 3 weeks before I was manipulated and exiled out of the home, we had not been together for 4 months. I came home from a business trip in Texas. We were together that night. Then we were together the following night, which was our daughter's prom. And then our daughter was staying at girlfriend's that weekend. So she suggested another night. And so there was baby oil involved, an air mattress, an LCD projector, speakers. And, it turned out to be uneventful. She only had 2 or 3 drinks and she passed out, and I ended up carrying her downstairs and getting her into the shower and getting her cleaned up and put her in bed. I had to clean up the baby oil. I didn't have to clean up anything else. So,
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
So
when things got spicy, but I knew everything became real clear when some of the revelations and the accusations came out as we moved forward, with a separation and ultimately the divorce. Was she was trying to infect me with something those 3 nights in a row.
An STD.
Yeah.
She was trying to give you an STD.
Yeah, because she had contracted, which that's the third gift. I don't mind giving it away. The first 2 gifts are my kids. The third gift really that set me free was her positive test for herpes 2. And it was a DNA test that she had the mediator drop on me during our first mediation. After they wanted to take my arms and my legs off and wanted me to pay more money than I make, the mediator was quite nonchalant and said, "Oh, by the way, she wanted me to let you know that you gave her herpes." And so my response wasn't a smile at the time, but it set me free to go, okay, everything's starting to make sense. All the accusations, the subtle ones for the first 3-4 years, and then the heated accusations where her mom got involved. I'm like, okay, you were the one out running around and you were the one out cheating on me.
So she contracted herpes from somebody and then was like, let me have sex with him before I file, because I'm going to use that as a tactic to prove that you've been cheating and that you gave me this. But you knew that you had never been cheated.
Absolutely.
But weren't you then afraid that maybe she did give it to you for a minute?
Oh,
Because sometimes it goes undetected.
I was scared to death. And that's all. I was scared to death. So it was 2 long days of literally on my hands and knees praying to say, please, 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 please let me test negative, which I did. And then that whole herpes saga, as they like to call it, it kind of spun out of control. But I ended up having to, get a national STD expert involved, and he testified at our alimony trial. And so it got out of hand. But I not only discovered the herpes, but because she never worked and I was a primary card holder, for our insurance benefits, and I paid all the medical charges, I never knew what I had access to, Heather, through our little insurance company's website. But I had full access to 5 years of medical claims, 5 years of pharmacy claims. And I spent hours and hours and hours cross-matching all sorts of prescriptions that I did not know she was filling. And I identified that she not only had herpes, but she pretty much had every STD out there going back to 2010. Going back to the time that she actually started accusing me was when this trail began. But the other mind-blowing thing that I discovered was she had hidden prescription drug abuse from me. So she was addicted to amphetamines. The first time that I went into her pharmacy claims, it literally took me 3 clicks to get in. I saw 2 prescriptions every month marked private that I couldn't see what the name of the drug was. So I'm in the pharmaceutical industry. I've been in the medical pharmaceutical field for 30 years. So I knew what I was looking at. And I had to work with the insurance company to figure out. I called them. I said, look, I'm paying the medical bills. I want to know what this is, and I want to know who wrote them. So those private prescriptions went back 5 years, dating back to 2010. It may have gone back further than that, but I switched employers in 2010. So I didn't have access to my old records.
So did you not discover the STD prescriptions and the, amphetamine prescriptions until after you guys were separated? So
it was after she made that accusation, and that's why I call it the third gift, because I would have, had she never played that card, she just left it lay, we would have gone through probably mediation instead of an alimony trial. We probably would have settled things, and I would have never have known all that she had done. And I would still today probably be kicking myself thinking, okay, what did you do wrong in the marriage? How did you, because what they started hammering me with, and her mother as well, is that I was a pathological liar, that I could never be trusted. And they beat me into the ground with it. And
so this is like this is a word that I feel has become very overly used, but you really were being gaslit.
Yes.
You are the definition of what came from the movie and everything, where they just kept trying to tell you something about yourself that just wasn't true until they convinced you that you believed it was.
You start thinking it, right? And then for me, the strength for me had always been my family, and it still is. Our unconventional family now, but I loved our family unit, and the thought of us falling apart, the thought of separation, the thought of divorce, it put me in a psychiatric facility, because that's the other piece of it is I had our family practitioner at the time who involuntarily committed me in less than 2 minutes with his back turned to me. So I spent 9 days in
Wait,
psychiatric lockup.
explain how that went down. In light of like Britney Spears and everything, I think we want to know how this happens.
Yeah. So 2010 to 2014. 2014 is when things really started to unravel. The accusations, my now ex-mother-in-law got involved, thus the subtitle, My Dance with the Devil, and her mother.
Is 2014 while you guys are still together, but like having issues? Okay.
We're still together, and that's when the issues really came. So not only in 2014 did she accuse me continue to accuse me of the infidelity piece, but then she started bringing into the mix that I was doing drugs, that I was a drug addict. And she started to tell that story to our kids. Our daughter was 14, 15 at the time, and I would end up being alienated from her and lose her for 2 years. But in the spring of 2014, I started working out. I was a big boy at one point. I was 245, 250. I started working out, switched from Coke to Diet Coke. And these are some of the messages that blew up on TikTok around the whole arsenic poisoning.
Okay.
But anyhow, in less than 6 weeks, I lost 30, 35 pounds. And then it was 40, and it was 45, and then it was 50. And then I became alarmed and finally went to the family. I was also having other symptoms. Did I lose you there?
Yeah, it's okay. It'll be, you're back and they fix it when they send it. So it's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was having tingling in my fingers and in my toes on top of all the weight loss. I was having some intestinal issues and difficulty swallowing. And so I was concerned that there was something physically going on with me. So I went to the family practitioner and I was checked out. I had abnormal white blood cell counts. I had liver enzymes that were through the roof. I had another enzyme called creatine phosphokinase that was through the roof. It's indicative of either stroke, heart attack, or traumatic, muscle injury, which I had none of those. So I would continue to see this family practitioner throughout the summer of 2014. And it was in September of 2014 that she called the cops on me on a Friday night.
How did that come about?
That came about because in order to try to hold on to our marriage, I agreed to go see a psychiatrist because she started to plant the seed that I have anger issues and that maybe I've got some mood issues going on. And again, through the gaslighting that you already referenced, you start thinking, well, you know what? It wouldn't hurt for me maybe to go see somebody. So I can laugh about it now, but I went and saw a psychiatrist in September 9th. And we filled out the little questionnaire. And in less than 30 minutes, he diagnoses me with bipolar 2. Less than 30 minutes, because she's there filling out the questionnaire. I'm filling out the questionnaire. And he just, again, quite nonchalantly says, that sounds like bipolar 2. So I was diagnosed September 9th. That happened. He told me, obviously, you're not to be drinking. Don't drink on it. It'll make your condition worse. And so Friday night, September 13th, I'm like, because she was in my ear about something or other, and she went out to have dinner with a girlfriend, and I decided I'm going to have a couple beers. I wasn't intoxicated. I had maybe 3 or 4 beers over the course of 4 hours. She came home, smelled the beer on my breath, and immediately, decides that, she's going to lock herself in the guest room. So she's locked inside the guest room, and I go upstairs to stay in our son's room, who's away at college. And I came down and made the grave mistake of opening her door. I didn't go inside, but I opened the door and I just wanted to figure out what had we been arguing about that day? What is going on? Please talk to me about what the heck is going on. And she simply stared a hole in me. So she wouldn't answer me. So I closed the door. And as I turned my back to the door, I said, maybe your problems will be solved and the good Lord will take me tonight. So that was her little alarm bell that he's suicidal, or at least she played it that way. He's got bipolar, he's been drinking, and now he's got suicidal ideations. So she called the family practitioner, she called the psychiatrist, and she would later call the police because she called her mother and decided she's got to run out of the house, even though I'm upstairs, not going to sleep, but I'm upstairs keeping to myself. I hear the garage door go up. And I come down very calmly and I said, where are you going? And she left, and I knew what was coming next. I knew the cops were coming within a short period of time.
So then the cops come, and what do they say to you?
Cops come and I'm having a conversation with them. I was honest with them about my diagnosis at the time, which was a misdiagnosis. And I told them about, having 3 or 4 beers. But I said, quite frankly, officer, I said, I'm very concerned about her because of her alleged, and I say alleged again, because we proved that she does not have an autoimmune disease. But because of her autoimmune disease,
Oh,
I
because
said, I
that's what she
believe
was claiming all these years, that
she
she
claimed
had
it for
this
17 years.
like a
Yeah,
Munchausen's kind of a thing.
exactly. And
Okay.
I bought it. And with the broken medical system, you can bounce all over and you just tell them you believe you got something, and there's no way to cross check it from one hospital to the next because the
Got it.
systems aren't linked. So I told the cop, I said, I'm really concerned about her paranoia, her delusions, her accusations against me are off the charts. And so he was fine with it. He said, she's just going to, stay away for a little bit. So I go out into the backyard, I'm talking to my brother and his wife, and they, turned out to be my lifesavers and my hero. And, were there with me throughout all the darkness. I look over the 6-foot fence and I see that she had returned to the house with the cops. So
wait, does your brother and sister-in-law live next door?
No, they live in Pennsylvania. So they were 10 hours away.
Wait, so you're in the backyard. Oh, but then you see her pull up.
I look over the 6-foot fence. I see her car. I see the 2 cop cars, and I ignored my brother's advice. He's like, don't go near her. Don't go to the court. Don't stay in the house. And I did not do that. Okay. I went to the corner and I was quite irate and simply said to her, after 21 years of marriage, thanks. This is what I get. You call the cops on me. So that night she did not come home.
Okay.
And then that following day, I ended up going to see my son at college. I made the 3.5 hour drive because I'm like, I've already lost my daughter. I need to go talk to my son.
If you're living together, where is the daughter?
The daughter was gone that weekend. So as became commonplace with her, she would be gone a lot of the weekends because of the tension in the home. She'd go stay at her girlfriend's and whatever.
Oh, okay. And she was in high school at the time?
She was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. She was a sophomore in high school and he was a sophomore college. So I made the long trip down there to have a conversation with him to let him know, look, whatever your mom's telling you about me being a drug addict, about me being, cheating and infidelity, I said, none of it's true. And all I can ask you, son, at this point is to please stand by me and please believe me. And so I made that journey back. And then as I came back, she confronted me and asked me, hey, have you talked to Billy, our son, today? I said, no. I lied to her for a couple of minutes. I said, no. And then I said, no, I went to see him. And so she went ballistic in front of our daughter and like, we need to separate, you're a pathological liar. I can never trust you. And so the following Monday, the 15th, and there's a lot of discoveries, which I figured, she set me up for this. She set me up for the involuntary commitment. And I can tell you how that happened. Yeah. But so the 15th, it was a rough weekend. I'm hollowed out. I'm emotionally broken, thinking I'm going to lose my family. We're going to separate. I supported it. I said, fine, maybe that's what we need to do. But I said, I just need to know that there's a chance that we can reconcile. And she never answered that question. So Monday, the 15th of September, I go as a follow-up to the family practitioner for a follow-up because of the blood work. She proceeds to tell him about what happened that weekend, and he's typing on his little computer, and he simply asked me, he said, well, what are you going to do if you lose your family? How are you going to feel? And I lowered my head, and all I said was, I don't know what I will do if I lose my family. And he interpreted that as suicidal ideations. So he says, well, if you don't go to such and such a hospital, I'm going to have you involuntarily committed. So I went to a particular acute care facility. And then ultimately I'd be transported by the police to a dedicated psychiatric facility for 6 days. So across 2 facilities, I was locked up for 9 days. Well, once the third gift was revealed, and I went back through
the herpes.
And we subpoenaed medical records, and I dug into her medical claims and pharmacy claims. Well, what did I discover? I discovered that she was writing letters behind my back. So while I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina, visiting our son on September 14th, she had penned 2 lengthy letters to my psychiatrist and to the family practitioner expressing her concerns with my mood and concerns with this and concerns with, my alcohol consumption, and accused me of cheating on her. I mean, they were chock full of lies. And the actual letters, which is what I like about the book, the actual letters are in the book. Because once I subpoenaed my medical records, I discovered, oh my God, she was writing these letters behind my back. She set me up for this involuntary commitment, and she was the one out doing the drugs. She was the one out cheating on me. So the picture became real clear.
So, okay, so you get out of the psych
Yeah,
hospital, and at
yeah.
that point, does she file then, or do you actually move back in the house?
I moved back in a house, and where you may not be able to imagine, but when I came out of the psychiatric facility, my head was so screwed up, and I was just doing all I can to hold it together, to keep my employment, keep my job, and to get back to work. And we just agreed that we would, it was I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. I don't know if you ever read that book, but
Yeah.
they pull you back in so they can slap you in the face. But I stayed in the marriage for 7 months after I got out of the psychiatric facility. And it was off and on. It was, a lot of fighting, but then there were times that she'd, pull me back in with intimacy or kind words or whatever. But it was the longest 7 months of my life.
So when did she start to, in your belief, poison you?
I believe it was the spring of 2014 when I started to work out. And I'm certain.
So
I'm not
before or
certain.
after the psychiatric time?
Before.
And tell me, like, how you came to this conclusion. I know that you were losing a lot of weight, but did continue with that?
Yeah, I was ultimately, as I went through the medical journey with all the enzymes and the blood work being off and the continued weight loss, and certainly as you move towards separation, and once I was out of the house, the stress of that, further eroded the weight. But initially, I was evaluated by an oncologist, tested for leukemia because of the white blood cell counts. And then I was tested for early onset of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and all sorts of neurological type stuff, and they could never figure it out. And so it took 2 years. I was out of the house for a year. We were separated for a year. We were 4 months away from an alimony trial before they figured out. I went to a liver specialist. I told him everything that was going on. I had had a blood test done for heavy metals poisoning that I find out that a blood test would only pick up acute exposure. So this liver specialist ordered a hair and nail test, and he confirmed that I was chronically exposed to arsenic. And I believe that she was putting it in. I can't be certain because the physical proof was gone, but I believe she was putting in my protein powder. Because when I started working out, my son, who's a big gym rat, was like, "Dad, you need to take protein after you work out." So Heather, she would pull that jug when I was still living in the home. She'd pull it out of the cupboard and she would harass me with it. She would say, "You're putting something in here. I know you're putting something in your protein powder." And we'd read through the ingredients, and I'd say, "Look, it's 100% whey protein." Ironically, I said, "Go get it tested. Go get it tested." I should have gotten it tested, but I'm certain she was putting it in there. Fortunately, I didn't take it every day. I took it, when I worked out. But after I got out of the psychiatric facility, my interest in exercise kind of waned. It took a couple of months to get back into it. But ultimately, we separated in May of 2015. And it was through our first mediation in July of 2015 that, she dropped a grenade of the herpes, which, again, ultimately set me free emotionally to go, okay, you weren't doing any of this stuff. I knew I wasn't doing any of this stuff, but it just opened my eyes to everything that she had, this was so deceptive about in our marriage.
And what did you discover about her extracurricular sex life? Like, when did she do it? How did she meet the guys? Secret accounts? Did you ever have contact with any of them? Like, tell me all of that.
Yeah, another great question. So we thought we identified, and this was one of the other alarm bells as to why I wanted to pursue kind of like the arsenic poisoning. So one of the things that we thought we had discovered after she dropped that on me, I hired a private investigator. Private investigator thought they identified the gentleman. And as it turned out, this gentleman had a PhD in organic chemistry. And that's when I got scared to go, okay, this guy would have the wherewithal to either create this or develop some type of concoction to try to poison me. Well, that turned out to be a dead end because it turned out to be the phone number turned out to be attached to a woman, a stay-at-home mom, also in our neighborhood. And there's some other things that I lay out that we never figured out. But yeah, so I apologize. What was your question?
Wait, I'm confused. So so you thought she's having an affair with this guy who has an organic chemistry degree, but it
Yeah.
turns out the number is actually to another stay-at-home mom. What's that about?
It was it was just shoddy. I chalk it up to shoddy PI work, and we would also discover one of the things we discovered through the subpoena process and all that is my now ex-wife's name was attached to this couple's home phone line going back to 2011. So her name was on their bill, and we never figured that out because with the Time Warner Cable, they leaned on cable privacy laws, and they said you'll need a court order. But at that point, we had a positive STD
So
test, and
so wait, she's paying their phone bill?
we could never figure that out. Her name was attached to their account when we subpoenaed their home phone line.
Okay.
And her name was listed on the bill.
But what
they
do
had
you think it is? What's your assumption of this?
the private eye, which we never figured out, and we never figured out who she actually was running around with, because as we moved towards our alimony trial, she destroyed her phone. She reset it to factory settings. She did it even though she was under a court order to maintain the integrity of the device. And she also wiped 4 or 5 computers clean and only turned over 14 emails to us. My speculation on when she had the opportunity to cheat was when her father passed away. She also got involved with an institution that has a program for terminally ill cancer patients that may not have family or family need a break, and you've got volunteers that go and sit with those patients. Well, she was legitimately involved in that program. I met the social workers, I met the director of it, we went to fundraisers for it. But as I look back now, again, clarity is priceless. A lot of her volunteering took place at night. She'd be gone at night. She'd come to me at 8 or 8:30, and she would say, well, they have another patient dying. Do you mind if I go and sit with that patient? Of course, I'm like, no, because I applauded at the time. I applauded the compassion she had as a result of the death of her father, which I still believed rocked her pretty hard. And I even said, I'll drive you there and I'll pick you up because I don't like the parking deck. I don't think it's safe at night. And she'd say, well, I'll just call security. So she'd be gone many nights from 8:30 till 6, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. But yet she would tell me, hey, nobody relieved me. And this patient I thought they were going to die sooner. And of course I bought it.
So I don't want to give everything away because you wrote this book, and congrats on being a first-time published author.
Thank you.
Where is what does she think about it? What do your kids think about the fact that you're featured a lot on TikTok and kind of airing the dirty laundry of your family, which is your story to do that with? But what's everyone's reaction? What's your situation with everyone?
The ex-wife I've had no contact with in over 3 years. So she moved away in 2017, moved away to Florida. She didn't attend our daughter's high school graduation. She didn't attend her college graduation that just occurred this past May. So
does your daughter not speak to her at all either?
They just text a little bit. My son, they have not seen her since December of 19, Christmas of 19. And when they did see her, they only got together for like an hour and a half to an hour and a half.
And when did your kids realize, when did your kids say there isn't 2 sides to every story? We do believe dad, and we are shocked and betrayed. When did that happen, during the process?
Yeah. For my son, it was, and they're now 26 and 22. So they spent their entire college and high school careers dealing with this. But for my son, I think he stood by me from day one. I'm sure he had some questions, but but my daughter, it took her a couple of years to come around. She came, it's one of my favorite chapters in the book. It's called Hi Daddy. When she came back into my life, she was living with mom, and she started to see the patterns with mom, because mom was looking for a part-time job. So mom had to get off her medications for a little bit. And I think she was in withdrawal. So until we divorced, I had full access to her pharmacy claims and medical claims, and I was watching it like a hawk. But she had two of them happened in the course of our marriage. But once we separated, she had two stroke-like events. And I say stroke-like because they weren't legit strokes, but she was in withdrawal from her amphetamine. She was in withdrawal from her downers or clonazepam. So she would stop and start them, and she did so when she was trying to find employment. But she had one of those events when my daughter was living with her. My daughter came home from high school. Mom couldn't walk. Mom couldn't talk, and there was dog food all over the floor. And she ended up having to take her to the emergency room. And again, she was evaluated for another stroke-like event, which again, it's due to amphetamine use. I mean, she was on 3 different formulations of amphetamines. So to answer your question, though, the kids, the kids are the young adults now. But they're supportive of it. Certainly, they don't like it. I mean, I wrote it under a pseudonym. I've changed names and I've changed a few locations, but the rest of it is very real. I did so really to kind of protect their privacy, but also to protect the privacy of all of the people that got pulled into our crazy mess, because she was going to friends.
And what about the mother? Did they talk to their grandmother, her mother?
Well, she passed away in the spring of 2018. So 72, 73. I haven't talked to my ex-wife, but through the kids, I believe she suddenly died from stage 4 lung cancer.
Oh.
My son does not have a relationship with his mom. My daughter has a limited relationship. My son ended up blocking her, about a year ago because I was no longer a target for her. She started targeting him.
And harassing him, and like saying he's a piece of shit or whatever.
Yeah, you're not a real man. You never give me a chance. You never heard my side of the story. I didn't do any of the things that your father has accused me of doing. And, this is your choice whether or not you want me in your life or not. And so it was constant harassment. He finally got to the point where he said, I can't deal with this dad anymore. And so he blocked her. So, I mean, it's sad, but it's, classic borderline personality disorder, classic narcissistic personality disorder. Throw in Munchausen's on top of that, throw in a drug addiction, and you got a pretty explosive situation.
And when you say you had like a trial for your divorce, was that part of the reason because you were in North Carolina and you can use alienation of affection as it is a fault state, unlike California, which is a no fault state divorce?
Correct. That's exactly right. So we couldn't pursue the alienation of affection because we couldn't identify who the men or women or whatever she was running around with. But yeah, the alimony trial, because it is a false state, that if there's proof of infidelity, there will be no alimony. So that's the reason why.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If there's proof of infidelity, there will be no alimony awarded.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting because, look, clearly you're the victim, okay? But it was obviously a law that was kind of written to shame women and fuck them over because, the majority of couples, especially back when the law came into state, it is the man paying alimony. So if you can prove that the woman cheated, I just think, I think it's an interesting law. I'm not necessarily against it, but when you think about how laws come into play and who made the law, it was definitely to, screw it. Why do I have to pay my wife if she cheats? Which was of course complete opposite of California. So I have a friend who got divorced in that state, and they were both they both made money. So it was very equal marriage as far as that. But that was something that she brought up in the mediation that she could use since he cheated. In the end, they didn't go that route because he wanted to protect his mistress, who then became his wife. But I remember being like, ooh, that's just so interesting. And right now it's happening with that sports star, Ben. I was just reading about it. There's this baseball player whose wife was having an affair with their pastor. and
Oh, wow.
he couldn't play baseball anymore. And he had a $12 million contract, but he had to give it up a couple months in. So he was out like $8 million. And now they're getting divorced, and he's suing the pastor for $6 million for alienation of affection and causing him not to make that money. Now she's going back, the wife, and suing him for $4 million, saying, well, you should have kept playing baseball.
Was this in North Carolina?
Yeah,
Was he a North
I guess
Carolina
it's
guy?
fine.
Okay.
It's Ben Zorbist, or I'm horrible with sports.
Oh, Ben Zobrist.
Yes.
Ben
I only
Zobrist.
care
Yeah.
about sports when it involves a juicy divorce. Otherwise, I don't really care. But I know he's like a huge deal. So
I hadn't heard that.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I was just reading up on it, and it was very interesting. Well, anyway, so now what's your life like now? Are you single? What is your life?
Another good question. So yeah, so I moved away to South Carolina, and after 3 to 4 years of just kind of putting the whole relationship thing on a shelf, I'm back in a relationship. I met a wonderful woman who has been very, very patient. We're doing the long distance relationship piece. So I moved away from North Carolina to South Carolina because I needed a change of scenery. So it's a 4.5 hour drive. But we're making it work right now, and she fully has been extremely patient with me, because as you can imagine, I had some trust issues, and every little red flag that would pop up, I'd go, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to settle. I'm going to live my life alone, and I'm happier alone, and I don't need to deal with this. But there was something that kept pulling me back to her. And things are great now, and I couldn't be happier. But we're just doing the long distance relationship piece, and she's been very patient and very supportive, of everything that I've gone through and that our family's gone through. So she's quite wonderful, actually.
So how much do you have to pay your ex-wife every month, and for how many more years?
Oh my God. Well, yeah, the book is still worth reading, but yeah,
Okay.
To say it nicely, I got screwed. Okay.
Okay.
So I
And
had
then
to
do you have to pay until she gets remarried or death, or just for half of the years that you were married?
Death, remarried, or cohabitation would be the 3 outs for me. But she was awarded 9 years of alimony. So I've got 4.5 to go. Of course, she got pretty much half of like the retirement and all of that stuff. And at the time when the alimony rule came down, it was essentially half my paycheck.
And tax-free for her, right?
No, she's got to pay taxes.
Oh, she does have to. Okay, so
Yeah.
chances are she's not going to get married
No.
in the next 4.5 years. But after 4.5 years, even if she's single, you can stop paying, right?
I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah. So her attorney at the time, and that's some of the favorite part of my book, is that so I took advantage of the concept of public record, and I got the audio transcripts from the trial and spent hours just listening and typing and putting it together in the book. But her attorney asked for 17 years of alimony, and asked for me to pay attorney's fees, which were quite substantial, as you can imagine. So that wasn't awarded to her, and the judge awarded her 9 years. So it was painful at the time. I'm halfway home, but it could have been worse. And I've got my kids in my life, and I've got my daughter back in my life, and the rest of it is just money. So, but yeah, I got the short end of the stick.
And do you have any idea like how she is doing? Like, so it doesn't matter if she does get a career, makes money, that doesn't affect it. So, but you don't know if she's like doing great or doing horribly. You really don't know.
I really don't know. Like I said, I've had no contact. My daughter has a limited texting relationship with her. I don't bring it up to my daughter. Do you write
the check to her and mail it to her address, or does it go through like a third party?
I do it old school, not old school, new school. I do it electronically. So it's just, just
through a checking account.
Transfers every 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So if we make it that far, if I make it to the point where I have to actually pay her the full 9 years, I'm thinking of something creative to do. Either pay her in pesos, or a box of dimes, or like 55,000 dimes.
Did you hear that guy? This was kind of sad. This woman finally got her child support, that was owed to her child, not to her. It wasn't alimony.
Yeah.
And he brought it over in pennies and dumped it on their front
Oh,
lawn, which is pretty
I don't mean
dickish just because there's a kid involved. Like,
that is
but
absolutely dickish.
yes, but I don't think you should waste your energy on doing that either.
You're right. You're probably right.
You're rise above it. Rise
You're
above
probably
it.
you're right. It's just a little humor. I thought, let's make it funny if we have to make the last payment.
Well, that guy
But
thought
yeah,
it was funny too, and it didn't really pay off. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, this is a crazy story, but it's also really interesting, and it's really good for people to read it and be aware of. I'm sure you're getting a lot of people that are writing you and saying like, "Oh my God, this happened to me and I couldn't figure it
Yes.
out." And then in retrospect, I looked and I was like, because that is such a weird thing with cheaters, where they all of a sudden are super jealous and constantly bugging their girlfriend or whatever, like, who's that guy you're talking to? And the girl is like every day trying to make the guy feel secure and prove that she's not cheating to, like just so awful. And then the whole time she finds out he's like a fucking sex addict on the side. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
hell? It's very weird. I don't understand it because I think if I was cheating, that's like the last thing I would be doing is like drawing attention and I would be like, everything's great, like just try to act like, I don't know. I don't get why people do that, but it's definitely a pattern of behavior.
And I certainly wouldn't have revealed the herpes card. I mean,
Yeah.
the attorneys were blown away going, why is she playing? Why would she do that? Why would she play that card? Why? I know why she played that card. She thought she infected me. She was certain she had. She was certain she had.
And also it's just like, yeah, obviously she's not mentally right, and
Right.
I don't even know
Right.
what that would probably be, some type of histrionic or something that's kind of, or like a personality disorder, which is kind of this most screwed diagnosis because it's just like you're just an asshole. Like it's just like it's a very like I've had people say there's really it's not fixable like a bipolar is with
Right.
medication or whatever. It's really not a fixable thing. It's just really like, oh, these are the traits of these disorders in your personality, and it's pretty weird
Yeah.
if you're in a
Borderline.
relationship with someone like that.
Yeah. Borderline personality disorder is really not treatable. And so again, all the
Yeah.
pieces of the puzzle, the people, 90% of the puzzle was put together for me by just that, just that one STD diagnosis. And it really opened the doors to so many things. I really don't know where I'd be today emotionally. And I don't know what my relationship would be with my daughter or my kids because they wouldn't have the truth. If I had
Right.
tested positive, they'd be like,
And
well, I don't know who to, I don't know who to
well,
believe.
then
Maybe they,
they would believe her, because then it would all make
yeah,
yeah. Oh my
yeah,
God, he's a cheater, he's an alcoholic, he's crazy, he has anger management problems.
yeah, yeah.
He's saying, I want to keep our family together because he's a controlling weirdo. He doesn't
Yes.
want me to have my life. Like it just, and then you'd be like, oh my God. And it started out so great, like, oh,
Yeah.
he started working out, then he got all weird and anorexic. You're like, what? I was like, and it's just like, oh my God, all these things just make sense, Oh, he's putting
Yeah.
steroids in his protein powder or whatever, now he's becoming a steroid port. Like what, no matter what,
Yeah.
like she was planting these weird seeds. It's just like, it's just fascinating.
It was all perfect. And without question, God intervened without question. He intervened through the form of an STD, slapped me across the face and said, son, your marriage is over. Because we went to the first mediation and my dumb ass was still in love with her. And I was still hoping that we could sort this out for a couple of months and we could work things out. That's where I was, Heather.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Tell everybody where they can follow you and order the book.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. So they can follow me. I'll give them the TikTok one first, my new favorite platform, but it's at the third gift. It's also at the third gift on Instagram and Facebook. They can find the book through Ballast Books. It's BALLAST books. There's a link on all of my sites for, direct purchase through them. It's also available on Amazon, Target, all of your online retailers have it, as well as 2 or 3 days ago, I just released an audio version. So I narrated the audio version and that was released July 14th. So I've got hardcover, ebook, and audiobook.
Well, thank you so much. Good luck with everything. I'm
No, I
glad that
can't thank you. I can't thank you enough. It was a pleasure to meet you. So,
okay, you too. Thank you so much.
all right. Thanks, Heather. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, I have such a juicy Patreon for you tomorrow. Some follow ups on my interviews this week of things I found out that will only be shared on Patreon. So you go to heathermcdonald.net, you join Patreon, and you change your life. Thank you.